Somewhere in human history, every culture started telling the same story. Not the same details, the same shape. Something is out there. You cannot see it clearly. You do not understand it, and it wants something from you. Ancient China told this story. Ancient Greece told this story. Medieval Europe told this story. Indigenous cultures told this story. Modern internet communities still tell it today. Different languages, different continents, thousands of years apart, yet somehow they all arrived at monsters. Dragons, demons, ghosts, giants, vampires, forest spirits, shadow people. Different appearances, different names, but the same basic idea. Something hidden, something intelligent, something dangerous. Why? Because if monsters are fictional, this pattern should not exist. Cultures separated by oceans should have invented completely different things. Yet over and over again, humanity keeps creating creatures that lurk beyond the edge of certainty. Creatures that watch, creatures that wait, creatures that punish curiosity, creatures that live just beyond safety. It almost feels as if humans are programmed to invent monsters. And in a way, we are. But not for the reason most people think, because monsters were never really about creatures. Monsters are about possibilities. To understand why humans create monsters, you first need to understand a strange fact about the human brain. Your brain is not designed to show you reality. It is designed to keep you alive. Those sound similar. They are not. A machine designed for accuracy would simply tell you what exists. A machine designed for survival has a different job. It must constantly ask a question. What is the worst thing that could happen next? For most of human history, that question mattered a lot. Imagine an ancient human walking through a forest. They hear movement in the bushes. They cannot see what caused it. Maybe it is the wind. Maybe it is nothing. Maybe it is a predator. The problem is that waiting for certainty can be dangerous. By the time certainty arrives, it may already be too late.
So the brain developed a shortcut. When information is missing, imagine possibilities, especially dangerous ones. The human who occasionally imagined danger when there was none lost very little. The human who ignored danger when it was real sometimes lost everything. Over thousands of generations, our brains became incredibly sensitive to uncertainty, and uncertainty is where monsters begin. Not in darkness, not in forests, not in caves, in uncertainty, because uncertainty creates a gap, and the human mind hates gaps. We want explanations, we want answers, we want causes. When those things are missing, the brain starts building possibilities to fill the empty space. What made that sound? What caused that movement? What is hiding over there? What is watching me? Most of the time, there is a simple answer, but simple answers are boring, and more importantly, simple answers are often invisible. You cannot see the wind. You cannot see random chance. You cannot see coincidence. The brain prefers things it can imagine, things with intentions, things with motives, things that make sense. And that is why monsters almost always have minds. Think about it. A monster is rarely just a dangerous object. It wants something. It hunts. It watches. It waits. It chooses. Because humans understand minds better than randomness. A creature hiding in the woods feels more understandable than an unexplained noise. A demon feels more understandable than bad luck. A ghost feels more understandable than pure coincidence. Monsters transform uncertainty into something the brain can picture. Something with a face. Something with eyes. Something with intentions. And once humans began sharing stories, these imagined possibilities spread. One person hears a strange sound. Another person adds details. Another person adds a warning. Another person adds a face. A generation later, there is a creature living in the forest. A century later, there are stories about it. 1,000 years later, it has become a legend. This happened over and over again across human history, not because everyone copied each other, because everyone was solving the same problem, trying to understand the unknown. And once you notice that, monsters start looking very different. Take dragons. They appear in cultures all over the world. Different versions, different appearances, yet they often combine several ancient fears into one creature. Teeth, claws, predatory eyes, massive size, the ability to kill. Dragons are not random. They are fear assembled into a single shape. The same thing happens with demons, ghosts, sea monsters. werewolves, different costumes, the same underlying purpose, giving form to uncertainty, giving shape to danger, making invisible fears visible. But something even stranger happened. As humanity changed, our monsters changed too. Ancient people feared what lived beyond the firelight, so their monsters lived in forests, caves, mountains, dark water, places humans rarely controlled. But modern humans live differently. Most people no longer fear predators hiding in the woods. Most people are surrounded by technology, cities, screens, networks, information, and yet monsters still exist. They just evolved. Today we create different creatures, the Backrooms, Slender Man, SCP entities, artificial intelligence gone wrong, digital horrors, internet legends. At first these seem completely different from ancient monsters, but look closer. The pattern is exactly the same. Something unknown, something intelligent, something difficult to understand, something that exists outside your control. The appearance changes. The psychology does not. Every generation creates monsters that reflect its deepest uncertainties, and that reveals something important. Monsters are not historical accidents. They are mirrors. They show us what humans are worried about. A society afraid of disease creates infected creatures. A society afraid of the wilderness creates creatures of the wilderness. A society afraid of technology creates technological monsters. The monster changes shape because human fears change shape, but the machine creating them stays the same. And this leads to a surprising possibility. Maybe monsters are useful. Think about horror stories. Why do people enjoy them? Why do people watch horror films? Why do they tell ghost stories? Why do they play horror games? Why do they deliberately scare themselves? The obvious answer is entertainment. But there may be something deeper happening. A horror story allows the brain to experience danger without facing real danger. It creates a simulation, a rehearsal, a practice run. You imagine the threat. You imagine the consequences. You imagine your response. In a strange way, monsters allow humans to train for uncertainty, to mentally explore danger before danger appears. And that may explain why every civilization creates them, because uncertainty never disappears. No matter how advanced humanity becomes, there will always be unanswered questions. There will always be dark places, unknown situations, unexplored territory, new technologies, new fears, new possibilities. And as long as uncertainty exists, the human imagination will keep trying to fill the gaps, sometimes with theories, sometimes with stories, and sometimes with monsters. So why do humans create monsters? Not because we are irrational, not because ancient people were foolish, and not because monsters themselves are important. Humans create monsters because the brain is constantly trying to prepare for what it cannot fully understand. It searches for threats, it searches for patterns, it searches for possibilities, and when certainty disappears, imagination takes over. The monster is simply the final result, a shape given to uncertainty, a face given to fear, a mind given to the unknown, and that process is still happening today. The same brain that once imagined creatures in the forest now imagines horrors in empty hallways, abandoned buildings, forgotten corners of the internet, and technologies we barely understand. The setting changes, the monster changes, but the mechanism remains the same, because deep down, humanity has always been trying to solve the same problem, the unknown. And whenever the unknown becomes large enough, we give it a face, we give it a name, and eventually, we call it a monster.